Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien vs. Predator Galaxy podcast, the original Alien and Predator podcast. This is Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks, and joining me are my fellow isolationists,
Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop.
Greg, also known as Still Collating.
and joining us is a special guest making his third appearance on the podcast, I believe.
Correct. Xiggz, aka Eric Higgins.
Welcome, Xiggz, and thank you for joining us today. I did think of other ones as well for the intro, things about brothers killing brothers and is it fratricide, something like that? Meteorologists, but I couldn't think how to pronounce that actual word for people who study metals. But I'm a dumbass, so what does it matter? What are we talking about today, Adam?
We are talking about yet another Marvel superhero crossover with Predator, and this time it is Predator versus Black Panther.
Indeed. Also written by Benjamin Percy, who wrote the first of Marvel's crossovers with Predator.
The Wolverine one?
The Wolverine one. And has gone on to write the subsequent crossover.
What's the subsequent?
Oh, I was waiting for
Spider-Man.
Oh, that's
There
right.
you
I
go.
haven't read that one yet, so.
Last
That's on
issue, I
its
think,
third
comes out
issue?
I think the last issue comes out this coming Wednesday from when we record this.
Cool. And then there's one more after that. Do you remember who that is, Adam?
Predator kills the Marvel universe, right?
There we go. He's got
Okay.
it.
But I don't know the writer of that. Is it Benjamin Percy again?
It's still Benjamin Percy.
Oh, okay. He's doing all the crossovers then.
It seems to be. Although the art team is different in this one compared
Isn't it?
to...
Changed throughout the run?
Oh,
I
that was
think-
the last one.
No, but the second issue was a different artist. I could have sworn.
It's like two
You know what,
artists
yeah.
kind of going back and forth. So, yeah,
It's different
Chris,
pencilers, it's different inkers.
Yeah, Chris Allen starts it off, and he shows back up in 3 and 4, and then there's
Sean Damien Hill doing 2 and
Yes.
4.
yes,
Lee Ferguson doing 1 and 2. And then inkers, you have 3 different inkers again. Although Lee Ferguson inks his own work and inks 4. Jesus Christ. At least there's a consistent colorist across all of them. It's Eric Arcinijo. Sinija. Marvel's creativity at its best with well, no, I can't say that because Dark Horse did that as well. Dark Horse would have runs with many different
Defiance, yeah.
not just Defiance, I think
Colonial
even
Marines.
yeah, and even like some of the 4 issues. I think Bad Blood also had or did that have different inkers on it? It's not unknown for that to be across all the comics, I guess, and I think that was unfair of me to say there. But in preparation for this, I went back and listened to our our previous podcast covering Predator versus Wolverine, in which Adam and Xiggz joined in. So, Greg, I don't know what you think of Marvel's Predator versus Wolverine. Before we dive into this one, just so we have a bit of a foundation for where you'd come into this one, all of us, Eric and Adam and I, all enjoyed Predator versus Wolverine. We all found it a fairly solid run. I don't think that's changed for any of us, has it? No, Xiggz is shaking his head.
Well, I haven't reread it since I read it initially, and I just remember really enjoying it.
Fair enough. Greg.
So, I read it when it came out, but it was kind of a quicker read through, and I also remember enjoying it quite a bit, but I forgot most of the details, so I am kind of blurry in generally the memory area of what all happened there. But I remember liking it. I was satisfied with the story, and the artwork was generally okay there. I was happy with the whole concept there. But again, coming into Predator versus Black Panther, since I only had the general impression of the last comic, I didn't have too many expectations coming into this. So it was something a bit more a different approach, especially reading it at a more slower and concentrated pace for the podcast here. And I I'm generally happy with it, but the first issue was for me a lot better, and it set up something, especially with the art and how the story seemed. It set up bigger expectations than how the other three issues kind of evolved further. So it kind of started at a high and then gradually just kind of decreased in my enjoyment there. Overall, I'm quite happy with it, and I'm definitely eager to see the rest of the a few future entries like Predator versus Spider-Man, and especially Predator Kills the Multiverse. I'm very interested in how that will go. But this one, I'm satisfied with it. I enjoyed it overall.
What
Later,
number
we'll say
score?
the details. I would say around 7, maybe between 6 and 7. Enjoyed it more than the elements I disliked, but it's about there, just above average.
Okay. Xiggz, how did you feel about this one? Give me the short and dirty summary review of your thoughts.
So this one I also enjoyed. I felt like it used both franchises' lore pretty well together. I think I liked Wolverine a smidge more, so I'd probably rate this one like a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay. Adam?
I'm kind of in that range too, like 7 range. I think overall this was solid. It the art I really liked, even though it did switch between artists with issues, and that can always be a little jarring. But I think it meshed okay here. It was cool to see some of the weaponry, the ship, even though again it's the dual engine design. It was the one from Predators, which I really like, and it was cool to see some of the weaponry. Like they even had the AvPR laser grid things that chop someone up at one point in the comic, so that was cool to see. But yeah, story wise, I agree with you, Greg. It did set up a lot in the beginning. It seemed like it was going to be a bit of a larger conflict. I feel like I was kind of rooting for the underdog Predator a little bit, given the intro, and so I was almost disappointed that he just gets offed a bit unceremoniously in the end as he's trying to make his escape. But overall, I thought it was another solid crossover. If you like Black Panther, if you like Predator, I think it'll be an entertaining read.
I agree with Greg in that I think the first issue was the best, and I think it set up a lot of promise that the series overall didn't quite reach. That said, I do think it was still satisfying. It was decent enough. 6.5, 7 out of 10. Artwork was generally good. I didn't notice the change in artists, so that's always a good thing, if the styles are similar enough. And to be fair, I think it's the colorist that tends to do most of the work there on the coherentness of a vision of a comic, and I don't think we ever give them quite enough credit when it comes to these comic episodes. So yeah, I was quite happy overall. I just think it could have been significantly better. I think this had the potential to be really interesting, but it doesn't quite reach it. It's not, I don't think it's one I'd go back to very often, unless this one really sets up Predator Kills the Marvel Universe. Because this did feel like a lot of setup, and that's not a bad thing as such, but it doesn't seem to be following through in Spider-Man. But I've only read the first 2 issues of Spider-Man. It sat there waiting for me to reread them all in one go, all 3 that are out at the minute. But I might as well wait until next week if the last issue is on the way. But yeah, I think it'll annoy me if it doesn't tie into the Marvel Universe thing, just because it feels like half a story in a lot of that regard.
Aaron just needs a setup.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if it didn't connect into Marvel or kills the Marvel Universe. I'd be real surprised.
Yeah, me too.
Was Wolverine 5 issues?
Yes.
And this was 4.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like this could have used an extra one?
Yes, because you have a lot. Like I think one of the big, I don't want to say problems, because it didn't like piss me off and ruin the comic or whatever, but it was one of those disappointments. But it's things like the comic really talks about how the protagonist brother in this is smarter. You know, he didn't get the bronze, so he's smart. And then there's parallels with Shuri in this. You know, it goes on about her being smarter. But then when we see her fighting a predator, she's duking it out, and 2 pages later, she's killed it with brawns, you know, rather than brains. And you don't get to see the brother predator being smart. You just get to see, again, brawns. And I find that disappointing. If there was more page count, if there was another issue, perhaps they could have taken the time to actually see those characters doing traps, you know, doing that iconic Predator thing where it's about the Boy Scout bullshit that succeeds, and a bit of luck, of course. But I would have liked to have seen a lot less straight fighting and give them time to demonstrate the differences between these characters. You know, she's smarter than her brother, but I don't feel like we really get shown that. I suppose her figuring out the bomb on the Predator wrist blade, or her getting through the tech, is kind of there, but it wasn't as satisfying to me.
I'd agree there as well. I feel it's a bit rushed in that sense. Another issue would have been nice. I mean, I'm generally a fan of longer content, more detailed, so I'm always going to be probably biased towards such a thing, but I do feel like the pace of the first issue is going at the type of speed that would need 5 in total, and then the other 3 really start speeding up everything, and fights are resolved way too quickly, like Aaron said, and not just that one, but the other ones. Yeah,
the boss fight is over in 2 pages. That was bullshit.
heartbreaking. There's a bunch of kills with less important characters that we would probably presume were gonna be offed. They're offed too quickly, and often not on the page. It's off screen, and you're like, this is a Predator versus one of the Marvel superheroes. I mean, you're supposed to get a more of to get at least half the story about being how the Predator generally functions in other films, games, and comics. So there's a bit of like, I would have wanted a few more panels just showing off the hunt, showing off the fights, the kills, the brutality of the creature, so we can know what's at stake. Because like T'Challa kind of keeps on alluding to, oh, he's afraid of internals instead of outward invaders. We have alien invaders from that have found their way in Wakanda, and if they take the vibranium, what can happen? He's kind of telling us how worried he is about the situation, yet at the same time, we see all of the main characters relatively easily take care of the predators. So there's kind of a disconnect between the fear that T'Challa is trying to convey to us, the readers, and also the narrative kind of voice in the comic, which I generally enjoyed, compared to the results we see when the main characters are fighting the predators and taking them out here and there. So I think that kind of thing would have synergized maybe better if we had just another comic, another issue of the comic left, that we can show those fights and show how injured some of them can get. So things do rush by a bit too quickly, which hampers my enjoyment personally.
Yeah, that the first issue, like most, is like a longer issue, and then the other three are shorter. And that's one thing I do like about the Aliens versus Avengers is all 4 issues are those thicker, longer issues. And if you're gonna do 4, I think we should do that more.
It does feel like I think they've made Aliens versus Avengers more of a premium title. You know, it's getting a lot of respect. They give it a lot of time for the artist. I forget his name, but you know, is one of Marvel's better artists to get everything done. So it's been like what, an issue every 2 or 3 months, something like that, and they're nice thick ones. So it doesn't feel like as solid as Benjamin Percy seems to be, you know, with these crossovers. I don't think they've treated this with the same sort of prestige as they have Alien versus Avengers.
Agreed. I did a kill count of Predators, and we had Okoye killing 4, Black Panther killing 5, and then Shuri killed the rest with the ship. But I think Predators probably killed about. I didn't keep a kill count on that one, but I want to say it's around 10 to 15.
It's a shame. This is a conversation that I think has really raised its, you know, mandibled face over the last few years, and that is the treatment of the Predators in terms of, you know, kill counts. And yeah, a fuck ton of the War Dogs and what are the women's clans called? Majal or something, MI something. Yeah, the women warriors. You know, yeah, the Predators apparently kill a fuck ton of them, but we really don't get to see the Predators being badasses in this comic. And that is, I think, that's a problem. It seems to be a Marvel problem where we just see Predators dying all the time, and it loses a bit of that effectiveness and a bit of respect. You know, one of the things we all said, minus Greg, when we reviewed Wolverine, was how well that series treated both Wolverine and the Predator in that. You know, it didn't feel like they were being disrespected. It felt like both were being made to be quite effective and competent and deadly and worthy of the fear that they were all supposed to feel over each other. And I don't think that worked very well in this one at all. Even the brother, because I think there's more concepts in this that are interesting than the execution. So, you know, even the idea of pitting the Predators against Black Panther and the Wakandans is far interesting a concept on the basis of them both being, you know, tribal-esque civilizations that are actually hugely sophisticated and surprisingly sophisticated to the outsider. The idea of the Predator Predator Prince in this, you know, again being smarter than he is, stronger against Shuri, who is again the smart one. There's a lot of parallels that they could have used to actually explore things a bit more interesting than they did in this. So I think the concepts are the concepts and the ideas and the theories that float in my head are better than, to me anyway, than what was in the finished comic. And yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame.
Yeah, I agree. It could have used an extra issue, but there were some cool things to see here. Some might miss this, but we do get our first female Predator in a Marvel Predator comic. She's actually on 2 panels at the end of the first battle. I only recognized her on one before, but let me see if I can find it here.
Crucified.
Yes. So right here, you can see her there. She gets rescued later. And then you can't really tell her apart from the rest once they all have their armor on. So I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, it's out on paperback now. So if you want to pick that up, it is available. It has all the snazzy cover art in there, of which there was some really cool cover art for the run as well. So overall, I think it was a good crossover, a unique crossover. But I agree, it like the concept, Aaron, it's just so interesting with the Wakandan setting and the predators coming there that it didn't quite make full use of it. Granted, it does kind of set up a sequel at the end of this. I almost thought the ending was going to be different based on what was being set up. I thought Suri, once she got the predator mask, she would kind of understand the larger conflict. And maybe they'd come to some understanding like, hey, I've killed your people, you've killed my people, but I see there's this bigger threat and we're going to give you some, so you take out this bigger threat so they leave us alone or something like that.
I don't, because so much of, see, I never got that, Adam. That never entered my mind as a story direction, just because it was so focused on how much this predator hated his dad and his brother, which, you know, kind of feels like Badlands kind of stuff here.
He kind of has a right to, though. I mean,
no, absolutely. I'm not saying he was wrong. I'm just saying it was personal. It wasn't like galactic spanning. You know, the Predator King wasn't there going like, we are now going to destroy the Earth, and I want all the vibranium after seeing how good you were. It wasn't. It didn't set that up in the middle. So maybe if Shuri had realized towards the end somehow, and they found out that they were going for the vibranium before the brother gets blown up or whatever. Maybe, but no, that was never a direction that I thought the comic was going in.
I did like the dynamic of him getting a lust for the vibranium, where at first he's just kind of jealous of his brother's spear, and then he's like, but I want everything. I want the armor, the masks, now I want ships, I want a throne of vibranium. So it kind of had this, I don't know, is the Hobbit a good comparison with the Dwarven King, who like just needs more gold and can't stop, you know, so he's lost track of his original aims.
Well, it was certainly an interesting way to take it, because that desire comes about when he sees Black Panther's suit, doesn't it? So it's like this suit's got vibranium weaved into it, so he realizes there's other uses or practicalities for it. I was again, this goes to the thing where I'm like, I wish they'd have shown this Predator being smarter. I was kind of disappointed we didn't actually get to see him do like an Iron Man, kind of scraping himself together some sort of armor or some sort of thing out of the vibranium to bring into the final sort of fight. But I do agree with you that I very much enjoyed the greed entering into it. You know, it stopped being so much that personal vengeance. He got there, he got his spear, but that wasn't enough, and the greed overrides it. I liked that because I think it showed there's a lot of things in the Predator portrayal in this that on the surface perhaps don't seem very predatorish, but then feel predatorish if you think about it a little bit more, like the whole sort of way this Predator is portrayed in issue 1, you know, and there's like little comments where it's like the Predators don't retreat. They what was it? It was like one of the military sort of fucking fluff that they say to themselves to make it feel better. The Predators did not run. Sorry, the Yautja did not run. I still fucking hate that. They repositioned. So there's lots of little bits like that where it feels cheaty. Like you know how much I think the Predators are cheaters. There's little moments like that and little behaviors like that that I really liked. I actually enjoyed a lot of the Predator stuff in this because, you know, like the whole setup with the king and them fighting over a hunting ground, you know, it reminded me of AvP Extinction. You know, that whole thing over the council and then battling over the rights to hunt planets. There's predator on predator conflict. I was like, that's cool. I enjoy that. That's a deep cut.
It was kind of wild to see two predator clans just going at it in a war together, because typically there's something deeper at play, whereas like in Bad Blood they're pursuing this crazy predator, or in the Three World War arc, it's a Bad Blood clan, but I can't remember seeing like two predator clans warring over a hunting ground before. And
there is more at it. It's this personal aspect, you know, the younger brother being all like, Dad likes Fred more than he likes me, so I'm going to throw a big tantrum and we're going to have a big war over it.
Again, he was the runt predator who was, I guess, born without a leg, and he had this cool cybernetic leg. But yeah, and after they lost the battle, they like crucified the ones that survived and took the skulls. And
it was so personal. It was so personal.
I think I've read conflicting things about that before. Like in some stories, they've said like predators killing other predators is taboo, and then I remember in some other one it was like they saved the worst savagery for their own kind or something like that. I don't know if you remember which one that one's from. I have to try and
it doesn't ring a bell. It's probably some of the shorts. I was sat there thinking, I actually need a big read through of all the old stories, because I can't. In my mind, a lot of the Dark Horse stories are always a single predator, and I know that's not the case. I know it's not. I know because I'm sure Concrete Jungle had a couple in them before the big battle thing at the end. But I'm sat there like, I need to go reread these, because sometimes I'm just in my head. I'm like, am I just being anti-Marvel? Am I just being edgy and a little bit pedantic because it's not Dark Horse?
I think we are due for a reread. There was a time when I was working a ski lift job in the summer a long time ago.
Always the ski lift, Adam.
That was when I read every Dark Horse omnibus front to back, because there was a lot of downtime where we were just waiting to hear a bell ring to do something. But in between those times, they encouraged us to read our books, and I read all the comics during that time front to back for the first time for a lot of them. I mean, I had grown up when I went to San Francisco, there was this store, Things from Another World, and that's where I got some of my first Alien and Predator and AvP graphic novels. But this job was the first time I had like really dedicated to just reading them all. And it wasn't that long after they had released all the omnibuses too. So a lot of ones that were long out of print were available for the first time. Yeah.
Anyway, Eric,
sorry,
Greg,
there.
How do you guys feel about the portrayal of the predators in this?
Okay, well, I will say that I really enjoyed how the narrative voice basically portrays the predator in these comics, as you say, with those internal thoughts, and it's not even an internal monologue. It's this disembodied narrator of the comic telling us what's happening, what the predator is thinking. And I like it that it didn't try to go too much into some kind of corny tribal linguistical style, but it spoke in a plain way, yet at the same time with the choice of descriptions, it felt like you were understanding what these predators are going through. I felt like it had a few similarities to the first Aliens versus Predator comic, that prequel comic where there is that conversation between the two about what does it mean to be a hunter, and it generally has that kind of narrative weight that I liked. But regarding the specific characterization of these predators, I am very happy and intrigued that there are these kind of very individualistic approaches to them. The whole brother feud was interesting, and yeah, it honestly seems more like an exception than a rule for this kind of situation, to have the clans literally fighting each other, because, as said at the beginning, the father predator was planning to give it to the better older brother, but since the younger one challenged him, he kind of thought of a little challenge for them. Let's see. So if you think you're worthy, then literally show it. And since both of them have obviously had a status of having their own kind of clans by their side, they went full on war, clan against clan. And exactly like Aaron said, I also kind of felt that a connection with Aliens vs Predator Extinction, the game, where you have these clans fighting on a planet. So that was fun. And to see why would this younger brother predator survive? Well, he was beaten, but having all of them be literally crucified on those totems as a form of punishment, as humiliation, felt completely like something the predators would do. And I was very happy to see that. And how he find a way to get out was also awesome. That was showing the predator, the younger predator, being a bit more intelligent there. So he had to rely on being smarter. He had to rely on cybernetics. So he goes one step further. He has had this seemingly secret wrist blades underneath his skin this whole time that the older brother must not have known about. But still, it's theoretically possible, and it's a very cool idea.
I
So
was like,
yeah,
it's kind of funny that would come after the Wolverine crossover. I'm like, oh, did was this guy watching the Wolverine Predators streams going on, and he was like, oh, that's fucking cool, and decided to take
maybe.
that one.
Yeah, that could have been a fun inspiration there. Who knows? I mean, the vibe of having the predator knife claws, the wrist blades, is so integrated into the predator. It also gave me that flashback to Aliens vs Predator 2, the game, where it said you cannot take it out without killing them, etc. So there were these interesting connections there, and seeing that the predator was so obsessed with revenge, basically he was humiliated, and I think it felt like such a nice balance between the expected kind of predator that respects their honor and wants to prove themselves as the best of the best, yet at the same time the predator actually, instead of feeling just like a goddamn honorable stereotype, this one felt like an individual with specific motives. And I really liked how uh, the younger one's stance towards the vibranium kind of changed his outlook there, but it was still in the service of the same goal. He wanted to not just get the spear, but so he wanted to upgrade himself even more, not for a normal rematch. He wanted to be absolutely sure that he can beat his brother and his father, and he can humiliate both of them and be at the top of the food chain in his little group. So that kind of felt very interesting, and again, in character. Yes, there will definitely be some Predator fans who will say, well, even having the first premise of the two Predator brothers fighting each other in such a clan war is dishonorable according to some previous law. Yes, but again, entries that have those specific types of lore, Predator honor code rules, whatever you want to call it, I mean, they're far and few in between, number one. And again, number two, these are individualistic, intelligent, technologically advanced alien species. They can have different clans, have different rules. We do not have to have the exact same thing, but there is this kind of through line of trying to prove yourself. And yeah, I thought it was very interesting how the MacGuffin, uh, basically between the two brothers, was that predator, was that vibranium weapon that the older brother had. So seeing that being the thing that's chased in the comic was for me really great. I also thought, regarding what was previously mentioned, the balance between the predators and how good we expect them to be versus the Black Panther side, with the roster of characters that have their own history and basically non-super but actually superhero abilities. So how would they balance that? Especially in the first issue, I was willing to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt, in the sense that you have this clan that's decimated. They have lost a lot of their members. They have been shown to be weaker than the other clan. And so you have this weaker predator and his weaker group against some of the most best trained warriors of that region, and especially people who know their own territory extremely well and theoretically know how to use their surroundings to their advantage, even though that wasn't shown quite enough in the comic itself. But at the start I was like, okay, that makes sense how we can bring the balance closer to each other. Just unfortunately, by the end of everything, I don't think that was done well enough, detailed enough to feel completely satisfying for both camps. But on the mental kind of side of what the Predator was wanting, what they were doing, I found quite a bit of enjoyment there.
Yeah, and like you said, the humiliation aspect of hanging them on the totems or like crucifying them, I thought that was well done. Also, the King Predator kind of reminded me of Killer of Killers King, and then the one-legged younger kid was kind of reminding me of Deck to a degree.
It does feel like a little bit of like I think these guys looked a lot more wilder than
Yeah.
Deck and the Killer of Killers King. But yeah, when I sat there reading it today, I was like, this seems so familiar to what's currently going on in
Right.
the in the theatrical universe.
Yeah, and I also, like you said, the Predators. There's a couple narrations where they're enjoying themselves because the Wakandans know their territory so much, and they have to. He says something like, "I have a warring mind between the goal of getting the vibranium and the hunt." And then let's not forget that this is probably the first Predator to actually beat the titular comic character. Like Black Panther got his leg cut off; he was done for before they left, and then Shuri and Falcon kind of came in and ended him
through his underhanded ways as well, through that cheating way that the Predators do when they're down and out. But it was cool that it was the subcutaneous wrist blades again. It wasn't obvious, and that was nice to see that make a return.
Yeah, which kind of seemed like a nod to both Wolverine, like you said, but also I think the Predator with the kind of integrating tech with like biologically. Couple other nods that I noticed was there's one Predator that sprayed that spray on a lion skull, which was like in Prey when they did that to the wolf skull. What else did I notice?
That was a nice little detail, and I like
Croc
when
attack that
he puts it
reminded.
on too.
Yeah, for sure. Then get speared immediately. The Croc attack reminded me of South China Sea for all those who've read that rare book. And then, yeah, Ridge mentioned the mines that just sliced through one of the war dogs. And then there was the drone like Falconer in issue 4 that was kind of spying on the Black Panthers team. I think that's all I got.
I think that's been a thing that's been nice about this and versus Wolverine, was that Percy had been referencing or including, a lot of different aspects of Predator technology, of Predator lore, without it being this annoying, over the top, obnoxious sort of Easter egg, so just a simple thing like that laser trap, then this like when you get to see them with some shurikens, it's simple things like them just referencing all these disparate elements of the lore from all over the years, where it's like, I remember that was fun. It's nice to see that again, because it was a strength or a charm of the Predator films for the most part, was how they were all quite separate from each other. But in that regard, it feels like we're not moving forwards. If we're not referencing technology or aspects of the culture or the character from the past, it feels like you're not moving forwards in a meaningful way sometimes. So that's something Percy's done well with both these series. I can't think of anything in Spider-Man off the top of my head at the minute that's the same, but I've only read 1 and 2 once, so maybe there's stuff in there that I just don't remember at this point in time, but it does seem to be a nice Percy thing.
Regarding if we are on the weapons and the designs, I am happy that we've seen quite a varied amount of them used in these condensed 4 issues, so it's always nice to see. the variation in Predator gear. So yeah, I was also happy to see the rarely referenced Requiem type of laser might. That was awesome, and it's used for one of the very rare actual depictions of what a Predator weapon does to a person instead of just cutting away constantly. So that was nice to see. I don't remember if there was too many if there were too many other new unique weapons. I don't really think so. I mean, except the original vibranium mega stuff. That's basically out of the Monster Hunters kind of arsenal. That was ridiculous how big it was. But again, it's cool. It fits everything well. I was happy to see the Predators actually being technologically advanced in the sense that you can see them basically nullify the isolationist shield like not a problem at all, and they are able to hack and stop the communications. That's something interesting. Instead of not just showing the Predator all the time being a basic brute that does no thinking, that this is what an actual hunter that does some planning would do. So that was awesome to meet the prey at their own kind of leveled playing field there. So it's always nice to see the Predator actually use a lot of his gear, and that's something that is helpful when you have versus Black Panther and that a group that is actually uh, very similar to the Predators with the combination of those tribal combat elements plus a lot of technology. So that's awesome to see those things collide and how they find a way to resolve that. I just want to emphasize lastly the designs of the Predators themselves. I really enjoyed it here.
Wild
Yes.
designs.
Yes. The way the the dreadlocks were braided, that's fantastic. That's awesome. It looks a bit ridiculous in some angles, but at the same time, I mean, it looks like something they would actually do and use if they have such long ones. And I love the little variations in the Predator faces, especially in the first issue, but I'll get to the art later. When you see the main Predators with how different, subtly similar, but different little spikes, little
The
horns
horns
through
were
the
in different
mandible.
places.
Exactly. That was brilliant. The blue and red kind of markings on their faces was also fantastic. It was relatively subtle, but the pattern was interesting, and again, something that I can completely imagine they would use. Maybe I'm kind of already gotten used to that because of Predator Hunting Grounds, but compared to that, these kind of patterns are a lot more intricate and something I think fits them very well. The armor looked phenomenal on the brothers, at least. It had some of combination of those metallic classical bits, but also with the bones. I'm very happy how balanced the design was, combining the technological armored aspect with the tribal and skeletal things. So that was fantastic to see. And and the masks, those are the favorite to me. I really like the masks of the brothers. How similar they are, yet the subtle differences, and just having that kind of grid. I don't know if some maybe fantasy in some old fantasy games, novels, images, knights had some similar type of masks, but that design is just very new, unique, and I really, really liked it. And even for the Predator father figure, I don't even completely understand what is that mask doing, but it's awesome. It's bonkers.
It is absolutely insane. Like, you cannot, and I don't say this in a bad way. I'm not sat here going, "No, it's fucking ridiculous, I can't tell." But like how crazy it is, and it doesn't follow quite the same conventions as a normal Predator mask, but it's so elaborate in that sort of royal way that sort of befits an arrogant king. And we all know the Predator's true downfall is their own arrogance. So just this absolutely over the top, ornate, skull bound, fucking incomprehensible mask that is essentially, I suppose, his crown. so to speak, just felt so it felt so appropriate in this crazy, insane way.
Yeah, there was the biomask looked really cool, and even what we see of them in the beginning in the King Predator's throne room, we see these massive skeletons like around the entire room, and the King's Guard even have these weird kind of facial shrouds. An artist we commissioned a lot, Azol Guard, she did a little piece of one of those Predator guards for the King, which looked really cool. So yeah, some of the world building there I thought was really effective. And yeah, it's always cool to see just how technologically advanced they are, and the comic makes a point of that, of just how easy the Predators are able to hack the Wakandan systems. Like when they get through the shield wall that camouflages the whole nation essentially.
Yeah, I agree there. That wasn't something that had really stuck in my memory from. Yeah, it hadn't been a big takeaway from reading the book, but it is absolutely spot on, Greg. It is. Again, probably because the comic's going so fast, but we get to see them jump through that shield like it's nothing, and it's this nice reminder that yes, the Predators are sophisticated creatures, regardless of how they choose to spend their pastime, how they choose to spend their spare time, when they're not doing predator dentistry or predator admin or whatever. So it's something I just wish the comic could have highlighted that contrast a bit more, but that it's in there was nice, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, those are some of the things that that ties to what I said about that first issue, setting up this very interesting world building from the Predator side, and also from the Wakandan side, how those aspects will collide, and not followed through entirely, in the sense that uh, everything I've said about the fantastic world building, not only thematically but also visually, um, in the later issues, most of the Predators have basic designs. The henchmen, the other clan member Predators, they have basic designs, basic uh, texturing, nothing too interesting. It's only when the brothers came in, or where you see the father Predator again, that is more detailed and more ornate, more intriguing. While in most of the other issues, they kind of feel like stock Predators that we have seen in a bunch of other comics. I mean, that quality-wise are similar to some common depictions of Predators from a farther distance in not only Marvel but Dark Horse as well. I mean, both have had that kind of unfortunate side of depicting them without too much detail or quote-unquote resolution. So that is one of the aspects that kind of let me down, in the sense, we're gonna see something that's actually quite beautiful there. Especially if I can pivot a little bit towards the artwork. In that first issue, the line work, fantastic. The shading also was really, really good, and actually did remind me quite a bit of those older Dark Horse comics. The coloring is still a bit different. Marvel has a different kind of style for the coloring, but even then, it wasn't bad. It wasn't too saturated. The types of colors and contrasts there maybe would have been a bit more interesting, for the spaceships to be more of the orangish, or something to help things stand out more. But it was very well done and interesting. And even though Aaron said that he didn't notice the change in issue 2, for me, just a few pages, I was like, what happened here? This looks completely and totally different. And only later, when I checked, because first of all, I didn't look at are all of the same people in the creative team still involved. I was completely confused, like, what's happening? Did they have did the writers and artists have more time for the first issue and limited for the other ones? But it was such a big drastic change for me. I noticed immediately, and it was a bit jarring for me. Later, you do get more used to it, but it was really hard for me whenever especially on the human side, on the Wakandan side, when you have facial expressions of people, it looked off quite often, and it kind of clashes with the type of dramatic story that the writer is trying to tell, and with the dialogue and the whole heaviness of the situation, and just having those kind of images and not fit too well. I mean, like literally, it's still stuck in my mind, the facial expressions of some of the characters, and even the predator facial features in some of the panels in 2 and 3, especially. That I understand that, again, that is something that happens in comics all the time. You have combination of creative teams. It was quite frequent in Dark Horse issues as well. But here, it was something that really uh, attributed to my feeling of disappointment at the later issues. So not only thematic but also visual setup that was in that first issue, I feel was not fully utilized until the end.
Yeah, I think the more interesting pred designs were definitely by that Chris Allen. And then in issue 2, when Sean Damian Hill came in, they kind of became more basic and they were just holding like swords. So yeah, but luckily, like I said, he came back in issues 3 and 4. He doesn't do the whole comics in any of the issues, but it's there. And I think the colors is really what kind of is the through line that keeps it somewhat cohesive.
Now that's a fair point. The designs do look basic, but I never attributed that to the change in the artist, and that is a very fair point. Especially because later on, in the last issue when what's his face comes back, what's his name? I'm shit with artists. When Chris and Lee come back in the last issue. No, it's just Chris comes back in the last issue. Last 2 issues, actually. He only really doesn't work on number 2. He only really doesn't work on number 2. But yeah, when you get to see the fight, the main predator, and you get to see those more elaborate designs, is when it's a lot more interesting. And there's a lot of good blacks in this. Like a lot of shadows, a lot of really nice inking, which I think adds some nice depth to what's going off. Like Black Panther himself, he looks fantastic in this as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of good comic money shots on Black Panther, like jumping out of the trees and stuff like that.
And the main predator. The main predator.
The poses for those main characters, both on the Wakandan side and the Predator side, were done really, really well, especially in those beginning and ending issues. Some of the wider shots, so to speak, are really, really memorable there. So there's something for everyone there. Again, it's just too bad we didn't have a bit more to flesh out the situations and the fight scenes with. If you already have nicely posed characters, especially those dramatic in that dramatic first issue setup, and in the last issue with everything coming together, and just having a little bit more of a description of the fight. Like, even I noticed a strange kind of element there, that things were going so fast that literally, like on the comic page, the little blurb was there to describe what was happening in the fight, as it's probably just going too fast. So if the reader doesn't comprehend it, that this is what happened in the fight, and we're moving on.
One of the main thing that stuck out to me around that sort of behavior was the end of issue 1, where Black Panther gets attacked by seemingly a fuck ton of predators, and you don't really fully comprehend what's going on then and there. There's a panel of the Black Panther with the targeting lasers on him, and then just a load of black dashes going towards him, and then he falls down. And then I think the start of issue 2 says something along the lines of, he didn't realize he just took 3 plasma caster shots to the face. And I'm like, oh, that's not really what the artwork looked like it was depicting there. I thought it was going to be like fucking the spear guns or something, but that was the most egregious one to me.
So we haven't talked about there's this point of contention with Suri and T'Challa about sharing Wakandan technology.
I was going to bring this up.
The vibranium. And this kind of comes back when T'Challa does like a spirit visitation with one of his ancestors who faced this, I assume, the father predator before, and that's where he got the spear from. So that might make an interesting prequel comic. But his grandfather explains this is why he was kind of hesitant to open up Wakanda to outsiders, was this attempted invasion by the Predators back during World War II times, I think they said. And so Suri decides she's just going to do things her own way and goes with kind of like a guru or something like that to deliver some vibranium to some neighboring people who need it. And they go outside of the shield wall kind of at right as the Predators are beginning their incursion, and the Predators they kill someone in the control room and hack the shield wall. So once they realize something's wrong, they attempt to turn around, and the ship, which I guess is Ornithopter, kind of looks like it, crashes. And Suri and the guru guy survive, and they try and get back in the wall, and their attempt is noticed by one of the Predators, who goes to the wall, attacks them, kills this guy, but Suri survives and manages to slay the Predator and puts on his mask and gets some information from that. And she's able to hack the Predator technology and get through the shield wall. But before she does that, she calls for help. And Falcon shows up, saying Captain America had him in the area or something like that. But he's unaware of Wakanda, which is kind of like, it was like, huh? What? I mean, I know we always think of like the MCU portrayal of things, but I was like, wouldn't some of the Avengers know about this place by now?
So I think the Marvel crossover stuff takes place very much in its own universe. When it's going to have to, if there's a Predator invasion incoming that's going to fucking slaughter loads of them. So I think this series, this universe, is just one where Wakanda hasn't revealed itself to everybody yet.
But the panel that shows the past battle is really cool, really intricate. It shows like a whole bunch of stuff on that double page spread.
And that was that.
Yeah, it also mentions that the grandfather studied the Predator tech, and that kind of influenced how they make that dome over it. So that's another kind of crossing over of the two lores, similar to Wolverine and his like battle training helmet. Yeah, thing. Exactly. Yeah.
So Adam brings this up in a way I didn't mean to. I was going to bring this up, but it was more of a moment for me. And I wanted to ask you, Eric, because you were more of our Marvel expert here. But I only know Black Panther really from the MCU. So that means that I haven't had a great deal of, experience with him and Wakanda and all that kind of stuff to know more of the nuances. So what I got in here was a repeat of MCU where they didn't want to give away their tech to everybody. So I kind of found that a little bit, I've already done this recently. This isn't that interesting to me. There's a, driving force of those two. What did you think of that? Did you got more experience with Black Panther in the wider Marvel universe?
I was a big Black Panther fan in the probably mid 2000s, and in that era he married Storm from X-Men, and so I was a huge fan of Storm too. So they've always kind of been isolationists, but I think Percy's really trying to make it easy for all fans to follow. So I think he leans more towards what's been seen in the films. So that's kind of my take on it, is that in order to kind of appeal to everyone, he's going to do what most people know for Black Panther, which is the MCU films.
Okay. How did you two feel about that motivational bit?
Honestly, so my history with Marvel is uh, I've I've never been too involved with the films. I'm generally a very casual Marvel fan, and I've generally stopped watching the films after the Infinity War two-part film, because for me that was a bit too ridiculous. But generally, so I don't think. I mean, I'm aware of Black Panther and what happens in the film. I'm not sure if I've even watched it. A lot of the auxiliary films, I haven't really. It was never my thing too much. Though, again, when the superheroes are crossing over with our favorite intergalactic hunters and uh, alien creatures, I'm always up to see how that fares. So I am one of those fans that is generally kind of a blank slate for this. And even though I knew what was Wakanda's whole thing about being secret and isolationist, etc., and uh, I found it a quick and nice way of making us understand what are the things at stake. Uh, I actually relatively liked it. I liked the explanation and the drama there between T'Challa and his um, fears and isolationist tendencies, exactly because he knows they have a very important resource and what would greater national superpowers do, which is kind of very logical in a sense. I completely understand his fears there, but at the same time, his sister is thinking through a very humanitarian lens there. Some would say maybe a risky and naive perspective, but a very human one, uh, a, a very logically emotional type of response. As if you have the resources, literally, she's even talking about just the neighbors nearby of the surrounding countries. It's not going to be easy for especially younger people who have maybe not been aware of what countries have been historically doing too much with political history. So it's very normal, especially from the younger child there, to want to spread out those resources and help. So I thought that was a very interesting dichotomy there. It was a bit cringy for me when she just decided, I'm gonna do this anyway. Like literally go out there, but plot wise it set up the interesting situation. And I did like that her stance technically was key to how the thing got resolved with calling in Falcon there. At the one point, I was worried when T'Challa was hit by the non-existent three plasma blasters, that he was, when he fell into the cold mud, as it was written, like, are we going to have a repeat of Predator, one where he's uh, completely covered in mud, and that's how the Predator wouldn't see him, which would actually make complete sense. I mean, we're in a jungle, that can completely happen. I was on board for that, but they don't do it. So it was kind of a red herring. The way that being invisible to infrared happens is logically, well, somewhat logically, through uh, Shuri kind of seeing through the helmet. Oh yeah, they see thermals, so we need something that can avoid thermals, and uh, Falcon being s- something that flies and needs to be able to avoid all kinds of scanning equipment. I mean, I have no idea about the history of the Falcon, but just having that kind of ability to not register on thermals makes complete sense if you're going to have all the other kind of protections against spectrum pinging. So I was completely fine with that. How they generally defeat things at the end because she decided to actually ask for help. That was quite nice from her perspective, even though I think things again were too condensed, and how she just easily hacks them back. Like you set up this great thing with the Predator being so advanced that they can take on the most advanced people on our planet, and then just nope, Uno reverse that card. So that was kind of a bit okay. But the general plan at the end, I was on board, at least for half of it, with enjoyment. But on the other side, seeing T'Challa and then the history with the flashback, and also as said, yeah, I really like that the technology from that first encounter with the Predators is what inspired some of the developments in Wakanda. That's a very interesting way to portray things in the story, and I like that by the end, even though uh, T'Challa was saying how afraid of them getting away with all of this vibranium, how worried he was about this. When presented by the opportunity, both T'Challa and the Predator younger brother Prince were like, let's duke this out one on one, and both were like, okay, we're gonna do this honorably. For that kind of scene, it made sense. I also like it from their perspective as well. But again, at the end, the Predator was more like, yeah, I got defeated again. I'm not gonna let that happen. And in the desperate moment, cheated. So how the narrative progressed through both of the sides on the Wakanda story, I'm generally happy with the idea. Again, the two basic premises of isolationist versus not isolationist, those are big and heavy ideas that are not fully developed at all in 4 issues, but they're not done too egregiously. I mean, I can imagine it being done in so much of a more cringy way. So this was okay. This was decent. Again, with more issues, things can be more developed there. But I'm certain that in the original, like Black Panther comics, those ideas are explored a lot more. So this was just an introductory for people like me who are a lot less aware of the dynamics there. And I think it did help with quickly understanding the whole vibe of what Wakanda is for.
Yeah, as someone who has only seen the first Black Panther film and not really gotten into the comics much, I mean, I've always enjoyed Marvel, and it's been cool to see these crossovers when we had DC ones for so long. To see the other side of things now has been really cool to see. But yeah, I mean, as long as you've seen the Black Panther movie and have a general idea of the whole concept, the comic does a good job of, I think, just bring you in pretty easily and not getting too lost in the lore of Wakanda and all that. But yeah, it was interesting to still see those elements at play, and it did make me want to finally check out the second film. I've heard pretty mixed things about the second film. I know some really liked it. I haven't seen it, so I will be probably checking that one out now. It's about time. But yeah, I mean, I think it was another just really solid crossover. And like you were saying, Aaron, the juxtaposition between both cultures being pretty tribal but pretty technologically advanced was an interesting one.
I think there was a slight nod to the second film when the Prez were scanning for vibranium. They found vibranium in New York, which I believe is Captain America's shield, and then they found some near Central America, which I think is Namor and the Atlanteans. And that's kind of what the second movie is all based around.
But what about Wolverine? Where's he at?
That's
That's
adamantium.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Oh, damn it! Sorry. Oops.
Get your metallurgy right.
I'm sorry, Marvel fans. I'm sorry. Right. Anything else you guys want to talk about this one?
The Predator killing the Marvel universe, is that the last for a while Predator Marvel crossover, or you think there's going to be more?
What one would assume if he's killing the entire Marvel universe.
Well, maybe it's just that Marvel universe. I don't know. I still think Punisher would be a good one. I would like to see that one, or Daredevil. I think both of those would be a good cross for one.
Yeah, the street level ones would probably be good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
those might be a bit more reminiscent to the Predator versus Batman type of the comics, because for someone like the Punisher and the Daredevil, you might expect them to use their surroundings, use knowledge, use planning, traps, so more of those kind of asymmetrical type of warfare for the for going up against the Predator. I would like to see that, even though here it was interesting to see what happens when you pit these two sides that have a lot of similarities. With the way the action is described there, it would have worked maybe better visually for me, with like a series, short films or whatever, to actually see that type of combat. But I would also be very excited to see in the future Predator versus this kind of asymmetrical type of enemy that is again weaker, and how would they take him on?
Like I said, I enjoyed it well enough. I thought it could have been better, but I still enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it. I've been enjoying Spider-Man. I do think Percy has had a decent enough hold on Predator overall. I'm kind of curious to see. Perhaps it scales. You know, the Spider-Man crossover and the Wolverine crossover have been singular predators against singular superheroes. I mean, of course, Spider-Man has a bit of a bigger cast because Mary Jane and Craven's entered it, which is a fantastic pick for a Predator comic. Let's be fucking, plain there. And those have been very strong. The first one was very strong. This one's been very strong halfway through it. Spider-Man's been very strong halfway through it. So it kind of makes me wonder if it's perhaps a scale thing. And that's why this one felt, to me anyway, like it could have been better. Like it needed that extra issue. So it does kind of make me wonder if perhaps Kills the Universe might be a bit too big, and again feel like it's not quite hitting its full potential. But overall, I'm enjoying it. I'm thankful for it. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Percy finishes off all these crossovers. But I am ready for more solo Predator stuff. I'm picking up
Black,
the
white,
first
and blood.
I'm picking up the first issue tomorrow. So I'm very excited for that, especially after how much I enjoyed the Alien anthology. I do want to see more solo Predator stories, please, Marvel. And can we finally have AvP, please? I'm sick of Adam every year going, this is going to be the year. This is going to be the year. And he's been wrong every year so far. Can he stop being wrong, please?
I
Give
think
us AvP.
New guess, which I better not be wrong on, next year. I think next year, especially after Badlands with the hints of AvP, I think next year is when they're finally going to do that. And it's got to be an event for Marvel, given the reputation of the first Dark Horse AvP comic. It's got to really be good. So that is the crossover I am the most excited for. But it has been really cool to see the Alien and the Predator having all these Marvel crossovers. It's all of them have been pretty solid. I still haven't started Spider-Man. I haven't gotten through the Aliens and Avengers one. Be curious to see Aliens doing more, because it's been mostly Predator with the crossover. I think Guardians of the Galaxy would be a good fit for Aliens. So
cool.
I do like Black Panther's role and Black Panther and Storm's son role in Aliens vs. Avengers. I think that's a really good comic and very cool.
You going to join us for that review as well, Xiggz?
You know it.
Any other thoughts on the series before we go to the housekeeping wrap up? And I can see what Adam is so thrilled about with this review.
I'm just going to lastly add that, again, even though it wasn't anything, it wasn't the best comic of all time, and I'm not sure how interested I would be in revisiting it, especially in the near future. But it was good. It was solid. For Predator, this is Black Panther, I would have maybe expected it to be done in a more detailed manner, more issues. Like it's good that we have had with Marvel a few series with 5 issues, 6 issues, etc. Those things are good. Rarely, I mean, there was a problem for me even in Dark Horse things when it's just 4 issue and a lower page count. If you want to do anything of any scale, it's really, really hard to get a narrative across and great action scenes. It's very hard to do. So let your writers, your artists fill out that space. We would appreciate that a lot more. But again, even for what it is, Black Panther versus Predator has put some interesting concepts, things that I like as a wider idea for the Predator lore. These kinds of Predator versus specific superheroes from the Marvel universe is very interesting. I do like that. I have no problem with that continuing, and I am happy to see how it will accumulate with Predator versus kills the Marvel multiverse. But as said, also whenever we can, individual Predator stories with new original protagonists, I think would be very, very good. I'm also extremely excited for the Predator Black, White, and Blood since I adored the Alien one. So I really hope that those ones are of quality. And again, I think Marvel has been doing a good enough, a steady kind of quality with the Predator side of things. With the Alien, we had iffy stuff at the beginning, and it's been getting better and better. And the last things are okayish. Some are better, some are middling, but
Paradiso is so mid.
I need to.
It exists.
Now I gotta read it. Yeah, we need to
I
have
need
a.
to finish it. I need to finish that one.
Maybe we should do that next because we need a good negative review. I think it's about.
Who says it'll be negative? I mean, I try to find the good things, though. Again, we shall see how annoying details in that story are. But still, again, the alien thing started off on a flimsy note. It got to a certain point in quality with a few of the issues. Okay, the ones that are now is something maybe middling, maybe negative. We shall see. But the Predator thing has generally been consistently in the positive, I would say, overall. So even though it hasn't had
Agreed.
such astounding examples yet, maybe we'll get lucky with Predator Black, White, and Blood or a future instance. We have a lot of these comics in front of us. So I'm actually surprisingly optimistic with how Marvel is treating the Predator side. Nothing incredible too much yet, but they haven't burned it all down. So I hope it keeps on getting better and better. And especially, I'm very intrigued how all of these new films that we have had regarding the Predator franchise, how will that influence the future expanded universe, the future comics, and I hope one day games and the Alien versus Predator stuff. So I'm really intrigued how that will continue.
And we've been broadcasting this live for our patrons. And Xenoplays Hunter says, I think Percy's track record on these stories is doing really well. I wouldn't be surprised if he's evolved eventually with AvP. Great episode, guys. And that is, again, something we do for our patrons. We broadcast live. And we've had a good few new patrons over June. We're recording this sort of early mid-July. So I'll just read some of them out, actually. We also have Jordan joining us, Jeremy M, Jordan Corrigan, Alexander Greer, Christian Sadler, Gary Smith, and Zachary Rosano. Thank you for your support, folk. You are helping us do things like send Adam over here to San Diego to go and hopefully watch Alien Earth's premiere and go and watch whatever the Predator Badlands stuff is on Hall H. He's He's got to get a seat. I understand that to be the battle to get in there.
We will be there early. It is going to be a long day, given both Badlands or Alien and Alien Earth are going to be that Friday. So wish me luck. I will do my best to bring you all the best on-the-ground coverage that I can.
Damn right. To be fair, though, this will probably be out by the time that's all done with, so we'll be able to see how you've done. But no, thank you. You help us send Adam to cool shit. One year you'll send me to cool shit, but for the time being, Adam's been the one that's been getting to go on these adventures, and we appreciate it.
Those UK airfares are a little bit more brutal, unfortunately. But
they are indeed. Well, it's more about maybe one year they'll do something over here. Maybe in a couple of years it'll pay for my train ticket to go to Horsham or my petrol to go to Horsham. Who knows? That's where Creative Assembly is. That's where Alien Isolation 2's been developed.
I mean, that can't be that far.
No.
You could reach pretty much everything in your country by train in the span of a couple hours.
Yes. Anyway, Adam, come on. What's this review that you seem so thrilled?
Okay. If you'd like to support this podcast, which we always appreciate, the best way of doing that is leaving us a review on any major podcasting platform you'll listen to.
And a rating.
And a rating. I believe the only major one you can leave a written review on is Apple Podcast. I'm not sure if Spotify has that feature yet, but on all the other platforms...
You can do it on the episodes on Spotify, so you can leave like comments
you can?
on each episode.
Okay. We'll have to check that next time. But Apple Podcast is probably the best way to leave a review of just our overall podcast. So if you want to do that, we do very much appreciate it. But I thought it'd be fun. So we typically don't share AI things, at least not intentionally. But there was a Google AI overview of the podcast of the podcast reviews we've received so far. So I wanted to see what this AI had to say about our podcast and its reception. So Google's AI overview says, the AvP Galaxy podcast consistently receives positive feedback for its insightful reviews and discussions of the Alien and Predator franchises. Reviewers praise the host's in-depth knowledge, engaging banter, and ability to spark thoughtful conversations about the films and related media. The podcast is known for its thorough analysis, including both positive and negative aspects of the reviewed material. Okay, so key aspects of the AvP Galaxy podcast reviews. Detailed analysis. The podcast delves into various aspects of the films, including plot, characters, themes, and technical aspects like visual effects and sound design. Engaging discussion. The hosts, often including RidgeTop, Corporal Hicks, and Xenomorphine, have a natural rapport and are able to spark lively discussions that are both informative and entertaining. Balanced perspective. While passionate about the franchises, the hosts strive to offer a balanced perspective, acknowledging both positive and negative aspects of the reviewed works. Community engagement. The podcast encourages listener participation through comment sections and forums, fostering a sense of community among fans. Coverage of various media. The podcast doesn't just focus on films, but also covers books, comics, games, and other media related to the Alien and Predator universes. Guest appearances. The podcast often features guests with unique perspectives and expertise, adding further depth to the discussions. Examples of positive feedback. Reviewers appreciate the host's enthusiasm and passion for the subject matter. Listeners find the podcast informative and enjoyable, even when discussing films they didn't initially like. The podcast is praised for its ability to make listeners reconsider their opinions about certain aspects of the films. The discussions are considered well-reasoned and fair, even when critical of the reviewed material. So thank you, Google AI, for that compilation.
Glowing AI review right there.
I was waiting for something to be mean and horrible and slag us off, and because I was like, oh, Adam seems very thrilled about this. What am I going to be insulted about?
The worst probable part of it is that these things like to tell us what we want to hear. So that's the worst part.
But no, cool. All right, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Google Summary AI. All right, I think that's everything, isn't it, lads? Okay. I can't be bothered to do the spiel. Yeah, we've got cool shit coming out. I've started a new project. It's going well so far. I look forward to sharing more deets with everybody about it. We've got, again, a bunch of episodes on the way, and we've got some interviews coming as well. Dan is going to be joining us at some point to talk about Killer of Killers. We just need to get that booked in. So yeah, thank you to you guys here for coming and joining, taking some time in these horrible hot days to come and nerd out. Apart from Adam, he's got aircon, he's fine.
Yeah, you guys should
but thank you to everybody else out there as well for your continued support. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the comments. Thank you to the Patreons. It is a good time to be a Alien and Predator fan in this little third golden age that we are currently going through. So until next time, this has been Corporal Hicks.
RidgeTop.
Still collating.
And Xiggz.
Getting to the
Signing
chopper.
off. Yeah.
It's a Predator. It's getting to the chopper.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. We'll let you off. Until next time, folk. Thank you.